Investigators have spent 4 days searching desperately for a motive to explain the horrifying killing spree in Las Vegas Sunday night. Nevada Attorney General Adam Laxalt is playing a major role in that investigation, of course, and he joins us tonight with the latest. Mr. Attorney General, thanks a lot for coming on. So I'm sure you've got to be as anxious as anyone to understand why this man Paddock did something like this. Are you any closer to figuring that out?
You know, I'd like to correct at least one thing that was said in the last segment. You know, the sheriff did not say there's any evidence of an accomplice. And I think he was expressing what we all feel, which is it's hard to believe that a crime of this magnitude could have been done by one person. But
yes,
as of right this moment, it is still a single-person operation. And, you know, dealing with this horrific tragedy here in our great city is it's been a real shocker for all of us. But people have really pulled together to try to get some answers that we know that we want and the country as a whole want.
So ISIS, as ludicrous as this sounds, I mean, I think we're all duty-bound to take it seriously as a possibility, has issued a third statement on Stephen Paddock, saying that not only was he acting on its behalf, but he converted to Islam 6 months ago. Doesn't mean it's true, but, excuse me, it doesn't mean it's worth following up. Is there any evidence that that's true?
Well, you know, from what I understand, Al-Qaeda, when they would actually claim something, that was always 100%. ISIS now has a pattern of falsely claiming that they're responsible for activities. You know, as of right now, with everything that is publicly available, there is no link. You cannot see anything that publicly shows that there's any link to radical terrorism.
Does it seem strange? Well, of course it seems strange. These reports that he had basically no digital footprint of any kind, at least a public one, social media. But does that mean that he was never online? Is there any indication that he was communicating somehow in a way that's less obvious in social media?
I can only say what's being said so far, which is, you know, he has virtually no footprint. And he does not fit the profile of what we'd expect in an incident like this. That's what makes it so baffling. A 64-year-old man who lives in, you know, rural Nevada. You just wouldn't expect something like this. But, you know, the FBI is working around the clock. And I'd like to remind your listeners that, you know, it took 9 days for them to finish processing the scene in Orlando. You know, we're still only 3 days away. I mean, this is a catastrophic, horrific thing for our city and our state. And so we all want to get to the bottom of this. But our sheriff and the FBI are doing an incredible job pushing and pushing to try to find answers.
Right. Though within minutes, I think it was clear to people watching when the shooter in Orlando, for example, said he was doing it on behalf of Allah. That was kind of a clue to the rest of us that, you know, there was a reason. Is there any indication what he was doing in the roughly hour between the last shots he fired at the security guard on the other side of the door and the moment that police burst through his door?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happened there was some discussion about why it took so long for them to breach the door, but it's important to understand that once you saw that there was a security camera in place, that once they got to the door, the shooting stopped. You know, had the shooting continued, they would have breached instantly and they would have, of course, taken the shooter out. But because they got to the door, the shooting stopped. And so what he was doing in that period of time, we don't know. But we do know the reason they took that extra time is they wanted, since there was not continual shooting, they wanted to make sure that there wasn't an explosive device set at the door to kill more of our first responders.
No, that's an excellent point. Adam Laxalt, the Attorney General of the state, thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tucker.